So, welcome all. Um, so let's start with the antitrust policy that's brought up at the start of every Linux Foundation meeting, and you can find the antitrust policy on the website in the second paragraph. And if your company is a member of the Linux Foundation, you can contact Andy Updegrove for further information. Now, with that out of the way, I really wanted to highlight just two things. One is that last week, or it was 2 weeks ago, we were able to launch the AI guide that we have been working on over the last few months. Just trying to bring it up in my other window. So we presented this in two conferences. One was the LF Legal Summit held in San Francisco on the 20th of October, and then the second one was at the PyTorch conference, which was a couple of days later. We went through OpenChain and what it was, so people had some background and there were some questions there. And we highlighted some of the work that OpenChain has done in terms of linking the ISO standards that have been done in the past and how regulators have maybe looked at these ISO standards and realized that some things that we're producing are useful. And then touched on the AI working group guide that, as I said, this team has been involved in. And I walked through the guide. Dave Marr also highlighted some points about the guide, and then Jimmy also talked a bit about OpenChain in general. I don't really want to go through the slides here today. I merely just want to highlight that the guide has now been launched, and I really wanted to, the second point, open the discussion up about what we want to do with this guide, how we progress it to either a version 2 or do we go to a specification, and so on and so forth. And I know Mary's on the line, and I know that you've done things with the other OpenChain ISO standards in the past, so hope might be able to guide if that is what this community is wanting.
Yeah, I'm happy to help. Shane asked me to be your ambassador, so I wanted to introduce myself. Is this a good time?
Now is a perfect time.
Okay. I'm Mary Hardy. I'm currently at Microsoft for 3 years, and before that, I spent 12 years with Dave Marr at Qualcomm. And I'm not exactly sure what an ambassador does yet. I'm still trying to nail that down, but I'm here to support you. I'm here to grow the community. If you have any questions or something I can help with, for example, as you just mentioned, that's what I'm here for. I think of it like, you know how a rap artist has a hype man that on stage with them? That's me until I hear otherwise.
That's amazing, Mary. Thank you. And the ask at the last meeting, and I think we do this now, we start promoting this guide because we'll soon get some feedback to see whether it is useful or not, and that may guide us in what we want to do. So, Mary, if you do talk to folks or about AI working group and OpenChain, and people are interested in this, then feeding that feedback into the working group, I think would be helpful.
That's a good point.
Myself and Jimmy spoke with US, no, not US, UK parliamentarians about this guide, and then myself and Andrew. And I hope, Andrew, you can remind me of who we spoke to because I can't recall off the top of
You're
my head.
putting me on the spot
I
now.
am. But myself and Andrew, we spoke with some folks that kind of work in this AI policy area in the UK. And again, they never heard of OpenChain. We explained what we do. They liked the concept of the guide. And we, I guess, start the ball rolling there. Anything to add there, Andrew?
No, not at all. I thought it was a really, really good conversation actually, and so we got some sort of penetrating questions, which is always good. So hopefully they sort of managed to internalize some of the things that we said. And Mary, I'm very pleased that you sort of leapt in with your ambassadorial role as well, because it occurs to me that I should also introduce myself as a co-ambassador. And I did receive a large box in the mail this morning. I don't know if you've had one yet from Japan, which presumably is full of all sorts of ambassadorial goodies.
Yes, not yet.
But yeah, we are supposed to be handing out in person with some T-shirts and this sort of thing. But yeah, so it's an important role. And again, Matthew, I'm here to sort of support the group and advocate for what it does, and generally, good stuff.
I don't know if
Thank
we're
you.
supposed to have two ambassadors, but I'm happy to step down or we can.
Let's have two ambassadors.
we
Don't
can-
don't
I
don't
think
we?
yeah. I think most of the groups have got sort of multiple, two or possibly
okay.
even three. Yes, yeah.
Great.
So
Awesome.
we can deputize for each other.
Okay.
So, like I say, on that note, I wanted to open it up for discussion about what we want to do next about moving this forward. Does anyone have any ideas or suggestions?
Well, we just launched officially, right?
Yep,
Last
20th of
month, I
October.
think.
20th
Yeah.
of October, yeah.
Okay. So I know we had lots of opportunity for feedback before the launch where we had an open comment period. So I guess what were you thinking to see if people find it useful, if it's lacking anything?
I think that's the first step. You know, you look at what we've done with 5230 and 18974, which are the other two ISO standards. You could see this becoming an ISO standard. I think that's a long way off. But if that is a vision or a goal that we look towards, what are the hurdles we need to get to that point? And I'm not saying we do go for ISO standard. I think we need the board to sign that off, but it would be a goal to aim for, and kind of what are the intervening steps.
Well, I think also we need to decide if we think that's useful or appropriate to standardize.
And how does one do that?
Yeah, good question.
I was hoping you could answer it, Mary.
Well, I know there's another standard out there that has to do with AI. Someone beat us to it. And I haven't read the whole thing, but it does seem to be more about responsible AI rather than the focus of our guide, which is more compliance.
And certainly when we were doing some of the preliminary work on this, that was highlighted, that there are other guides out there, but we felt as though we found this gap with the AI SBOM guide, rather than just being an AI compliance guide or an AI management guide, which I know others had dealt with. But is that another step to see whether we scan the landscape to see if it's fruitful or worthwhile?
Yeah, I know there's some sentiment out there that more standards aren't necessarily helpful, that it's an increased compliance expense, for example. And I do think that people find the other two OpenChain standards very useful. I get, we've got amazing feedback. We have so many adopters. It's been great. So I think we should think about it carefully. We don't want to dilute the brands with a less useful standard.
Indeed, and maybe that's something we go back to the board for discussion on to help provide guidance for the working group.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. But I think understanding, where a potential standard might sit in amongst other standards, and obviously determining whether it's actually fundamentally going to be useful or not is absolutely key to this. So that makes sense. Yeah, certainly.
Considering how fast the AI is evolving, isn't it better to have a version 2 instead of a standard? Because the standard may become obsolete in a year or two.
And that's a very good point, Alan, and something for discussion. I already read it and think it's, well, I'd like to add things to it. I don't know whether it's out of date yet, but there's certainly additional things that I'd like to add to it as the technology has evolved since we started writing it. Does anyone else have any suggestions on what could be added to it? Have people read it? I guess if you've come along on the journey, then you'll be aware of it, but I guess others may not have done. Maybe that could be homework for everyone between now and the end of the next one at the start of December. Read it and provide comments for the next meeting. It's probably a good
It will be questions.
So the other area that I wanted to touch on is now the fact that we've produced this guide, and we have to think about education and promotion, that can all come as a side. What does this AI working group now want to focus on? Is it that education and producing documentation and supporting evidence of how people can implement it, or is it something completely different? I'd like to get people's thoughts on that before I talk about another suggestion. What do
Well,
people want to do with this hour?
I was gonna say, if we do work on implementation ideas, that would be a great ground for feedback, because as companies are implementing it, they might have some useful feedback for us. So I think that would be a good priority.
How do you think, so this group could look at the feedback, but how do you think we could deal with that implementation? Is that each of us going back to our respective organizations and seeing how we potentially implement it, talking to folks in our networks to get that feedback? Is that how you envisage that, Mary?
That is definitely part of it. I think looking at OpenChain, we have some implementation guides for how, when you're a small, medium, or large size company, how to implement it. I don't know if that would be useful.
And that's certainly what I was thinking of, because I know the education group did that for 5230. And I think, Andrew, you were involved in that when you were in the education group.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
And I could see that being the same here. And I don't know whether it's the education working group in OpenChain that would help that, or whether it's this group here.
Mm.
Andrew, are you still involved in the education working group? I know you stepped down as chair.
I turn up to meetings occasionally, yeah, but I haven't been to one for a little while. But I know that Martin is very active in that group.
So one other thing that I did want to raise that I'd love to get people's thoughts, it was mentioned at the LF Legal Summit. It was a flippant one-off comment that really resonated, and it had nothing to do with this AI SBOM guide, but it had something to do with AI, and it was around AI questionnaires. So I don't know if you've worked with a supplier that wants to bring in a new tool that has fancy AI features, and you usually ask them a load of questions. Well, these suppliers, I guess they're getting lots of different questions from different organizations. I look to my organization, we'd have 10 standard or 10 questions that we'd roll out to each supplier. Well, it must be frustrating for the supplier to get 10 from my company, 10 from the next company, 10 from the next company, all slightly different worded. And I didn't know whether that could be something that this working group looks to standardize. I don't even know if it's practical or possible, but it was just a comment that was made, and given what OpenChain is known to do, I didn't know whether that might be something we'd want to look at. And we could come up with lots of questions and work out how we'd standardize that wording and then produce, what these 10 questions might be for a supplier with a new large language model, or a supplier with an AI feature that uses a lot of, something along those lines. And I don't know whether that's the start of something that might be helpful. Alan.
Sorry.
I was thinking that maybe it would be nice to have some open discussion together with the LFAI, and then
Okay.
see how they would apply it.
What do you mean? As in, give them this scenario and see if they're doing anything with it?
Yeah, maybe that would also be a good channel for broadcasting this guide that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you involved in that? Those working groups?
No,
Okay.
unfortunately, no.
Okay. Andrew, were you about to say something?
Yeah, Matthew, I really like that idea. And in some ways, it's sort of baby steps towards having some sort of standard as well. I mean, this is something that I took the 5230 standard and developed a questionnaire based on that, which is the basis of some essentially due diligence questionnaire when you're interacting with a supplier, and it can be used for corporate transactions as well. But you're asking sort of fundamental questions that you need to know to establish trust and flip side risk. And I can see, certainly see the benefit in doing some sort of similar process as far as AI supply due diligence is concerned as well. So yeah, I think that's an excellent idea, and I think we should give that some consideration. And whether it's a question, maybe at the next meeting, just doing a bit of brainstorming, really, and finding out what sort of questions people want to be asking. That maybe a sort of good way forward.
Anyone else have any comments on that?
I really like that idea too. +1.
Can we get thumbs up from people who are online if you agree that that could be something we could work towards? Thank you, Alan.
What do you think about organizing also a webinar so that we can spread the news?
Sounds like a great idea. A webinar, would that be on that questionnaire or on the guide, the SBOM guide?
I would say on the SBOM guide, and then we can collect feedback to fill the questionnaire.
I think it's a great idea. And people are finding their thumbs up, which is great. Is that something you'd like to lead, Alan, or others? I just don't want to be a bottleneck for doing this.
In this moment, no, it's a very busy period.
Maybe we could look at taking this time slot in January and inviting, not having this as an AI working group session, but we could invite others in OpenChain and make it a more general webinar. I wonder if that might work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And I can present what I presented at the legal summit, and maybe others can chip in with their thoughts and ideas. If between now and January they have, or you have, read the guide and come up with other comments, that could be the start of the discussion about feedback. And you could discuss how you might implement this in your organization. Okay, I'm talking to Shane, I think on Thursday, so I will propose that to him to see whether we can arrange other people to dial into the January meeting.
Mm-hmm.
That was everything I wanted to discuss.
I saw Steve had his hand up.
Oh, I don't see Steve having his hand up. Sorry, Steve.
Well, he did, but
I think he gave a thumbs up to say, I agree with this. Okay. Does anyone have anything else they want to discuss today? Okay, in which case I will ask everyone to either spend the rest of the time they would have dedicated to this meeting to go and read the guide, or find some time between now and December the 3rd, 4th, or 5th, or something like that, the first week in December, to go and read the guide. Why don't I put the guide in the chat so you can go and open it up, and then I can call time on it, and we can ask you to read the guide and think about how you would either implement it in your company or provide some feedback on the guide. So the guide is now in the chat. And if there's nothing else, I propose that we close the meeting.
Right, fantastic. Thank you,
Thank
Matthew.
you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Okay.
Have a good rest of your
Bye-bye
day.
now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.